On Christmas Day, just as the family dug into dinner, Madison's mom dropped a bomb. You need to move out. No warning, no reason. But what they didn't know, Madison had already prepared for this moment, and what followed wasn't rage or tears. It was a cold, calculated exit that would flip their world upside down. The first cut wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it came dressed in Christmas cheer, right between the mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce. You need to move out, my mother said mid-bite, like she was casually commenting on the weather. She didn't look up. She didn't soften the blow. It was just a statement, tossed across the dinner table like a side dish. I paused, fork in hand. Really? I kept my voice even. I pay the rent, the bills. I stock the fridge. I cook this dinner. My mom gave a tight smile and wiped her lips with a napkin. It's not about money, Madison. We just need space. You're almost 30. It's time. I was 26. I glanced around the table. Jasmine, my 17-year-old sister, barely blinked, thumbs still dancing across her phone. My stepdad, Michael, didn't even look up, just shoveled more food into his mouth. No one seemed surprised, which meant they'd talked about it, planned it. I'd moved back in 2 years ago after my father died suddenly. Mom was falling apart emotionally, couldn't manage the house on her own. I didn't hesitate. I dropped everything, left my apartment, put my career on pause, and moved home to help. At first it made sense, but over time, my role became less about family and more about function. I wasn't a daughter anymore. I was the live-in assistant. I cleaned up their messes. I paid the rent when Michael forgot. I picked up groceries when Mom had a headache. I fixed the Wi-Fi every time Jasmine's stream froze, and I never complained. I told myself I was doing the right thing. But this, a Christmas eviction? I nodded once, pushed my chair back, and stood up. Understood. Then I sat back down and finished my dinner. No shouting, no pleading, just silence. But something shifted inside me right then, something final. What they didn't know was that I'd already sensed this coming, the way my mother had started calling me a guest, how Michael grunted instead of greeting me, how Jasmine once said, "You're just mad because you don't have your own life." They didn't know I'd quietly signed a lease for a small apartment across town 2 weeks earlier, just in case. The next morning I woke early, packed everything I owned, just my things, nothing more, and left before anyone was up. I dropped my keys on the counter with a note that read, "You wanted space. Now you have it. No farewell, no drama." But I wasn't just leaving, I was detaching. I went straight to my new place and powered down my phone completely. Not on silent, not on airplane mode. Off. I didn't want the inevitable barrage of texts. Didn't want to be guilted back into servitude. I had been too generous for too long, and now the person who had quietly run the household was about to disappear from their lives entirely, and not just emotionally. I logged into the shared utility accounts and began removing my name. Electricity, gone. Internet, canceled. Streaming services, logged out of every device. Groceries, my card removed from their delivery apps. Auto pay on rent, disabled. Within 48 hours, their comfort would begin to unravel, not as revenge, but as reality. They wanted me out, then I was out, and everything I'd held together went with me. I sat on the floor of my new apartment that night, surrounded by boxes and silence, and for the first time in years I felt relief. Not freedom, not joy, just the absence of obligation, the absence of being used. Back at their place, the lights would flicker, the Wi-Fi would cut, the fridge would stay empty. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I wasn't their foundation, not anymore. And soon they'd feel what it was like to live without one. By the time the first text arrived, I was already sipping coffee in my new apartment, watching the morning light crawl across my floor. "Jasmine, hey, the Wi-Fi's down. Did you forget to pay it?" I stared at it. No greeting, no question about where I went, no apology, just confusion that her internet had disappeared. I placed the phone face down on the table and didn't respond. 30 minutes later. "Mom, I just tried to pay the electric bill. It says the account is closed. Can you fix that?" Still no mention of Christmas dinner. Still no acknowledgement of the way she'd pushed me out. Another ping. "Mom, also, did you cancel the rent auto pay?" Michael's card got declined. That one made me laugh quietly. I had always handled the rent when Michael forgot, which was often. Apparently, he was trying to remember now. I typed a simple response. I moved out, like you asked. All the bills are yours now. Good luck. No flourish. No anger, just facts. That night I cooked dinner for myself. Music played softly in the background. No TV blaring 2 rooms over. No passive-aggressive sighs. No one asking what I was making, then criticizing it. Just quiet. I didn't miss the noise. I didn't miss the house. I definitely didn't miss the people. On the third day, the texts became more frequent. Jasmine again. Jasmine. The thermostat's not working. It's freezing. Can you call the utility company or something? Then, Mom. Michael tried to fix the fuse box and shocked himself. Can you stop by? Still no apology. Still no self-awareness. I replied, I don't live there anymore. Day 5, Jasmine posted a screenshot to her Instagram story. A picture of her frozen loading screen with the caption, when the Wi-Fi dies midstream and your parents say, ask your brother to fix it. LOL, he ghosted. I smiled. Not because I was proud, but because it was honest. The world was finally seeing them for what they were. They didn't miss me. They missed the free labor. They missed convenience. They missed the person who quietly solved their problems while getting blamed for taking up space. On day 6, I received a call from Michael. I let it ring. Then came a message, Michael. Your mom's upset. She thinks you hate her. Maybe just help out with a few things till we get back on our feet? Back on your feet? I was their feet. They had relied on me to hold everything up while treating me like an inconvenience. They wanted the benefits without the respect. Now they wanted sympathy? No response. They never realized I'd been paying for the renter's insurance too. Quietly every month. It covered accidental damages, emergencies, like the kind Jasmine caused when she spilled wax all over the carpet during one of her tutorials. 2 days later, Jasmine, you canceled the insurance too? Now we have to pay $300 for the stupid rug. Thanks a lot. I ignored it. I was finally detaching, piece by piece. I updated my emergency contact information at work, removed their address from every document, set up a P.O. box. I wasn't just moving out. I was building a wall they couldn't climb over. This wasn't out of revenge. It was clarity. For the first time, I wasn't living in a constant state of emotional debt. They had never asked how I was doing, never thanked me, never said they were proud, only what I could fix, cover, or clean. That dynamic had become so normal, I hadn't realized how wrong it was until I left. By the end of the first week, the cracks had become chasms. Jasmine posted another story. No heat, no food, no help. Merry freaking Christmas. This wasn't about me punishing them. It was about letting them experience the version of life they demanded. They didn't want me there? Well, now they had to live without me, and everything I did without recognition. My mom tried one last time. Mom, I didn't mean what I said the way it came out. It's just been hard. We're all tired. Maybe we could have handled it differently. Can we talk? I considered it for a second. Then I thought about every time she criticized how I folded the laundry while I paid for the machine. Every time she sighed when I walked into a room. Every time she reminded me I was still here, like my presence was a burden she had to tolerate. So I texted back. You didn't ask me to leave because you were tired. I left because I was tired of being useful but unwanted, treated like a guest while paying like a provider, pretending things were okay when they weren't. You wanted space. Now you have it. Learn to live in it. I hit send. Then I blocked the number. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a conclusion. The roles had shifted. I was no longer their safety net. They were on their own now, and I had never felt lighter. By the end of week 2, their household had officially unraveled. Jasmine posted another complaint, this time a blurry video of herself wrapped in blankets with the caption, 3 space heaters and still freezing. This house is cursed. The heat hadn't come back on. I had shut down the utility account the day I moved out. It was in my name. Electric, gas, everything. And none of them had bothered to take ownership when they kicked me out. Another message came through. Mom, Michael thinks the furnace is broken. Can you tell us the company you used to call for repairs? I didn't reply. She wasn't asking out of concern or humility. She wanted convenience. 2 days later, Jasmine got a warning from the landlord, said we need to schedule an inspection. Something about the unpaid balance on the utilities and the condition of the carpet. He's threatening to bill us if we don't fix it. The wax spill again. I used to handle those emails, smooth over the issues, arrange cleaners, quietly pay out of pocket when needed. I did it to protect them from penalties, never expecting anything in return. They had never even known I paid for renter's insurance until it disappeared. Jasmine's tone changed fast when she realized a $300 charge for carpet damage was headed her way. It wasn't just the money, it was the exposure. I had always been their invisible firewall, keeping stress from reaching them. And now they were learning what it meant to live without that buffer. On day 15, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I didn't answer, but the voicemail transcribed. Michael, this is ridiculous. We get it. You're mad, but you've made your point. Can you stop acting like this is some moral crusade? You're not a martyr. That word stuck with me. Martyr. As if I'd been seeking sympathy, trying to prove something. He didn't get it. None of them did. I wasn't punishing them. I was stepping away from a system that never saw me as more than a utility. When I left, I didn't slam the door. I didn't make a scene. I just removed myself and the things I carried. But now that they were forced to manage without me, they felt abandoned, exposed, uncomfortable. Good. Maybe discomfort was the only language they understood. Later that week, I got a message from Jasmine. Jasmine, Mom's not sleeping. She's up all night worrying. Keeps saying she pushed you away too hard. Michael's snapping at everyone. I'm stuck in the middle of this mess. You happy now? That last line, you happy now? That's when it hit me. They still thought this was about them. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to explain. Instead, I changed the locks on my new apartment, updated my emergency contacts again, filed a change of address form with the DMV. The steps were small, administrative, but they were mine. Meanwhile, their problems compounded. The internet, still canceled, meant Jasmine's online classes were a mess. Michael was dealing with angry calls from the landlord. Mom was trying to patch things up with duct tape and nostalgia, but the cracks were too deep. They weren't missing me. They were missing what I did. The tasks, the bills, the silence with which I kept everything functioning. On Christmas Eve, I got one final card in the mail, no return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Inside was a generic holiday greeting, wishing you love and warmth this season. Below that in pen, maybe come by, even just for dinner. It hasn't felt the same without you. That was it. No apology, no ownership, just a vague gesture meant to sound heartfelt. She still wanted to skip the accountability and fast forward to the reunion. But we weren't in a movie. There was no montage of hugs and forgiveness waiting at the end. I didn't want revenge. I wanted honesty. And if they couldn't offer that, they didn't get my presence. That night, I cooked myself dinner. Real food, not microwave leftovers. I sat down, alone but not lonely. I opened my laptop and started a list. Not of what I'd lost, but of what I'd regained. Peace, autonomy, direction. They had mistaken my patience for weakness, mistaken my silence for compliance, and now for the first time, they were seeing what life looked like without someone holding the foundation together for free. They thought kicking me out would create space. It did, but not the way they planned. It created distance, permanent, healthy distance, from people who never saw my value until it stopped benefiting them. They wanted a house without me. Now they had one, and it was falling apart. A year passed, quietly, deliberately. No visits, no calls, no texts. I didn't reach out for birthdays or holidays. I didn't send a message when Jasmine graduated. I didn't even acknowledge Mother's Day. I had nothing left to give, not because I was angry, but because I was finished. Meanwhile, life on their side of the fence unraveled in slow motion. Through social media, I saw the shift. Jasmine stopped posting pictures of her outfits and live stream setups. Her feed became vague and infrequent. screenshots of broken things, complaints about the cold, blurry photos of takeout meals. Her captions weren't cryptic. They were resigned. She had gone from influencer energy to how do I adult confusion. The heat, the rent, the little comforts I used to maintain, they had all become issues they couldn't ignore anymore. Michael tried to hold things together, but DIY fixes weren't cutting it. They didn't know how to manage the services I used to coordinate. Or maybe they did, but they never had to, so they never learned. I had stepped away from their lives completely, but not out of pettiness. It was preservation. At work, I thrived. I got promoted 6 months after moving out. I bought a used car. No shared keys, no "where are you going?" interrogations. I decorated my space how I liked. I learned to cook for one. I started taking long walks without having to announce where I was going. I even booked a solo trip to Colorado. A few days in the mountains, just me and quiet. I had always thought being needed meant being loved. It didn't. They had only loved the role I played, the support I gave. And when I stopped playing that role, they didn't mourn me. They mourned the missing services. But I didn't disappear to punish them. I disappeared to see who I was without them. Turns out I was more capable than I knew, and they were far less. By November, Jasmine posted a story of a new room setup that was clearly in someone else's house, a friend's or maybe a boyfriend's. The caption read, "Finally some peace, couldn't take the stress anymore." I didn't react, just another piece falling off the structure they once called home. Michael's name came up in a legal filing I found by chance while helping a friend research property records. Apparently, he was involved in a dispute with the landlord over unpaid rent and property damage. I didn't read too far into it. That chapter was closed. Then a week before Christmas, a card arrived at my P.O. box, the same box I'd set up a year ago to keep my address private. The handwriting was unmistakable. Plain white envelope. No glitter, no flair, just a simple message inside. "Wishing you love and warmth this season." Same as last year, but this time the handwriting continued. "I understand now. You don't have to forgive me. I just want you to know." I thought I was pushing out a burden. Turns out I was pushing away the one person holding us together. "If you ever want to come home, the door's open. But this time, I know it's your choice." I read it once, then again, and then I set it down. It wasn't the worst thing she could have said. It was more thoughtful than the last attempt. There was no manipulation in it, no bait, just regret, or something close to it. But even with the better tone, it still missed something crucial. Responsibility, not just for the words said, but for the years of imbalance, the casual dismissals. The way I was treated like a temporary guest in a place where I was footing the bills. She didn't say, "I'm sorry." She didn't list what she had done. She just admitted she lost something. And she had, but so had I. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because nothing would change if I did. If I went back, it would validate the silence that followed her cruelty. It would say, "You don't have to be accountable, because eventually I'll come around." That wasn't going to happen. I was no longer the daughter who begged to be seen. I was a person who saw herself clearly and had no intention of shrinking back into invisibility. Jasmine's stories stopped altogether by Christmas Eve. No tree pictures, no family photos, no turkey. At exactly 7:12 p.m., a single post appeared. A dim photo of a dinner table with microwave containers, mismatched plates, no centerpiece, no light. The caption, "Worst Christmas ever. No internet, no heat, no help, no him." That last word stuck with me. Him. A year ago, I left in silence. Now their silence echoed back. They had built a house where I was treated like a visitor. Now they lived in it, truly fully, without the person who gave it structure. This wasn't justice in a dramatic sense. It was balance. I hadn't punished them. I had just stopped protecting them from reality. They were learning to live in the space they created, and I was learning that leaving isn't failure. It's the beginning of healing. I spent Christmas morning alone, by choice, not in sadness, not in bitterness, just in peace. The snowfall outside was quiet. I made myself breakfast, took my time, Didn't check my phone. There were no expectations to meet, no conversations to endure, no thinly veiled jabs over coffee. For the first time in years, Christmas wasn't a performance. It was just a day. Mid-afternoon, I went for a walk. No destination, just movement. I passed houses with decorations and families gathering, but I didn't feel left out. I felt separate, not isolated, detached, and I liked it. When I got home, I checked the mailbox. Another card, same handwriting, my mother again. But this one wasn't generic. Inside was a short note, written in a way that didn't sound like her usual tone. Madison, you were right. I didn't see it when you were here. I only felt the loss after you were gone. I thought I was strong for getting by, but I was just leaning on someone else's strength. If I could go back, I would ask you to stay, and I would mean it. Not because I needed your help, but because you deserve to be wanted. No strings, no pressure, just, if you ever want to talk, I'll be here. There was no return address again, just her signature and a phone number I didn't recognize. Probably a landline, maybe prepaid. A small detail, but meaningful. She wasn't asking me to return. She was offering a line, not a demand. For the first time in over a year, I didn't feel manipulated. Still, I didn't call. Not because I held a grudge, but because some doors, once closed, stay closed for good reason. People often think reconciliation is about forgiveness. Sometimes it's about self-respect. I forgave them a long time ago, quietly internally. But forgiveness doesn't equal reconnection, and distance isn't always punishment. It can be protection. From that point forward, I stopped looking back. I deleted their numbers, I cleaned out old emails, I removed backup contacts from online accounts. I wanted a future where my name wasn't tied to theirs in paperwork or memory. I wasn't angry, I just wanted clarity to last. The apartment I once saw as temporary now felt permanent. It wasn't grand, but it was mine. I started inviting people over, real friends, co-workers, people who treated me like a person, not a utility. I even adopted a dog, something I couldn't have done in my old life, where every decision required explaining or negotiating. In those quiet moments, walking the dog, brewing coffee, fixing a broken drawer, I realized what real freedom looked like. Not dramatic, not flashy, just calm and control. Control over my time, over my space, over who got access to me. Sometimes I'd think back to that Christmas dinner, the way my mother said, "You need to move out," like she was clearing clutter, and I'd remember how I felt in that moment. Frozen, shocked, then completely clear. That moment hadn't been cruel, it had been clarifying. She showed me what she valued, and for once I listened. The story didn't end with fireworks. It didn't resolve in a tearful reunion or sudden apology wrapped in a holiday bow. It ended in silence. And that silence became the space I needed to build a better life. People like to say, family is everything. But here's the truth. Family is who treats you like you matter when you have nothing left to give. If they only value your contributions, they don't value you. So when people ask if I'll ever go back, I say no. Not because I'm angry, but because I finally learned to say yes to myself. They lost a helper. I found a life. Sometimes walking away isn't about leaving them behind. It's about finally arriving somewhere you belong.